Damn, being the first girl to hit puberty in 5th grade was a friggin' curse. You'd think the other girls would be excited to get their periods and sprout boobs too, but nah. They just resented me instead. I remember Tina, who used to be my friend, coming up to me one day. "Oh look, it's Jessica with her huge melons," she sneered. I fired back, "At least I don't look like a 10-year-old boy anymore, flat Tina." That's when the venom really started. She rallied all the other girls against me, whispering insults and giving me stink eyes in the hallways. Whatever, I didn't care about them. But the guys? Man, they were the real nightmares to deal with. The first day of junior high, I was waiting at the bus stop, feeling pretty down about the girl drama. That's when I first met Chris. This black guy came swaggering over, looking me up and down. Without any intro, he just blurts out, "What's up, bitch?" I was stunned. "Excuse me." Chris smirked. "You heard me, titties. Or should I call you Jessica Melonlord?" From that moment, I knew Chris would be a problem. The other guys laughed it up, egging him on. He ruled the school bus with an iron fist and a big mouth to match. Every morning waiting for that bus was a gamble. Sometimes Chris let me have it right away. Sometimes Chris let me have it right away. Like this one time, he came right up to me and said, "Hey Jessica, I had a dream about you last night." I tensed up, not wanting to hear the details. But he continued, "Yeah, it was you tied up while I let my Rottweiler gnaw on your fat ass." The other guys burst out laughing like the immature jerks they were. I felt my face burning with humiliation. "That's FK up, Chris," I managed to say. He flashed that taunting grin. "You think that's bad? How about this? I'll shove you right in front of the bus when it comes. Pancake time, baby." He cackled at his own sick joke while I stood there, trying not to cry. What made it worse were my two so-called friends Stacy and Amber. They heard every vile word from Chris's mouth, but didn't pipe up once to defend me. When the graphic threats didn't get the rise out of me that Chris wanted, he switched tactics. Rumors started swirling that I was a lesbian. It was the worst possible time for that shit to go down. You've probably heard of Matthew Shepard, the gay guy who got beaten to a pulp and left to die tied to a fence out in Wyoming. His case was huge news and it scared the hell out of everyone, even in our small Missouri town. One day, Chris cornered me after English class. "Hey Melonlord, I heard you're a big old dyke," he sneered. "Don't look at me in the shower, lesbo." Some of his buddies snickered behind him. I felt trapped, glancing around for a teacher or security. But of course, none were around when you needed them. "I'm not gay, asshole," I shot back, trying to shove past him. Chris blocked me, getting in my face. "Sure you're not. But just in case, stay the hell away from me before I knock your teeth out, freak." After the gay rumors didn't get the reaction he wanted, Chris ramped up to physical bullying. Anytime I had to walk past him getting off the bus, I braced myself for impact. Sure enough, one morning I felt a sharp smack against the back of my head. "Hey Melonlord," Chris shouted from behind me. I whipped around, catching him laughing with his dirtbag friends. "What the FEK, Chris?" He pretended to look innocent. "What? I didn't do anything." We locked eyes, and he gave me a nasty smile before turning to his boys. In that moment, I knew it was intentional. He wanted to goad me, see if I'd retaliate so he could claim self-defense. Not taking the bait, I stormed off towards the school building, trying to blink back tears of rage and humiliation. Every few days it was the same shit, a random smack or shove, as I got off the bus. If I managed to get ahead of him, I'd hear a gross two and barely avoid him spitting some loogie at me. The aim was so bad, I'd just roll my eyes. The daily harassment and degradation from Chris was becoming too much. I was depressed, anxious, and dreaded going to school. One morning, I just couldn't get out of bed no matter how hard I tried. When my mom came in and I told her through tears that I couldn't face Chris and his bullshit again, she knew something was really wrong. After some prodding, I unloaded everything: the threats of violence, the gay rumors, the physical attacks. Mom was livid. She insisted I stay home from school that day and went straight to the principal's office to raise hell. From what I heard through the grapevine later, the principal tried to downplay it as kids just being kids. But Mom wasn't having any of that crap. She told him in no uncertain terms that if he didn't punish Chris and put a stop to it, she'd involve the police and have his ass fired. Word got back to Chris about my mom's outburst, and he must have finally taken it seriously. Because the next day at school, he didn't pull any of his usual stunts. The harassment didn't fully stop until my older brother Steve stepped in. Steve was home from college when he found out everything from Mom and Dad. His face went stern in that protective big brother way. "All right, where does this punk Chris live?" Steve demanded. Mom gave him the address but made him promise not to do anything crazy. Steve just nodded and grabbed the keys to his truck and Dad's shotgun. A few hours later, Steve came home pale as a ghost. "I took care of it," he muttered. Turned out Steve had gone to Chris's house with the shotgun and confronted him and his parents. From the look on Steve's face, I could only imagine the threats he made while holding that weapon. Whatever he said, it worked. The next morning, Chris avoided all eye contact at the bus stop, and from that day on he never said a word to me or pulled any of his sick pranks again. The bullying finally stopped, but only after my brother had to take drastic measures. The bullying finally stopped after Steve's confrontation, but the damage was already done. I was a hollow shell, suffering from anxiety, depression, and panic attacks. The constant fear and degradation Chris inflicted really scrambled my brain. Mom and Dad didn't know what else to do besides take me to a therapist. I unloaded everything about the threats, rumors, physical attacks, and humiliation. The therapist diagnosed me with PTSD from the prolonged harassment. She prescribed some heavy-duty anti-anxiety and antidepressant meds to help me cope. I remember that first night after taking the pills, just crying in relief at finally feeling a sense of peace for the first time in months. But I also mourned the lighthearted, confident girl I used to be before Chris. My self-esteem was utterly shattered. Feelings of worthlessness consumed me some days to the point I couldn't get out of bed. I'd have these ugly thoughts that maybe Chris was right to torment me, and I deserved the abuse. As grateful as I was for the meds, I knew I had a long, hard road ahead to repair my self-worth and identity beyond just being Jessica Mellenlord, the target that Chris tried to break. Even though the meds helped numb the worst of the panic and depression, there was one lesson that Chris's bullying burned into my brain: never take shit from anyone again. I realized that by staying quiet and trying to ignore his cruel taunts, I was basically giving him a free pass to keep abusing me. He saw me as an easy target because I didn't fight back or report him. Those days of keeping my head down were over. From then on, I decided I'd confront any bullies head-on before the harassment could escalate. If that didn't shut them down, I'd make an official report, no matter how awkward or petty it might seem. I wished I'd done that from the start with Chris instead of waiting until I had a mental breakdown. Maybe then I could have avoided some of the long-term damage to my self-esteem and mental health. But there was no changing the past. All I could do was apply that hard-earned lesson about standing up for myself moving forward. I'd be damned if any future asshole thought they could make me their victim again.